because that's the first place I'm going to go in the wreck is I'm going to go to the driver, check if it was okay, and if I see any problems, all I got to do is reach up there and turn it off.
Right. We mount ours on the sidewall cockpit right next to the driver, or we put it up on the deck in the same area. For that same reason, so that Craig can reach over there and turn that off.
Right.
Or you guys coming in.
That's a hard place for us to get to.
So let's get into that point where you're talking about, Jeff, is that if Doug gets to Craig, okay, say worst case scenario, Craig's knocked out. So now either one or two things are going to have to happen. Either he's going to have to go through, upside down. He's going to have to go in through the driver's door, over top of Craig, reach through. That's 4 feet, and/or come around the other side and have to reach through. That again's 4 feet.
Exactly.
So, and I understand. Everybody. That's the bad problem is that I'm not saying IMCA or Northwest Extreme Late Models or whatever. I believe personally, just as been a driver, as been a race fan, as been somebody that's now part of the media and seeing different things that you don't see as a sense of a crew member. Because I'm like, I look at that car and I'm like, that's cool.
That we're like Doug. We get to see everybody's cars all the time.
So
and you
strange
see
seeing it from this different side.
What are you thinking? I remember just up until a couple of years ago, we still saw guys using open face helmets.
Right.
This isn't 1970, guys. Put the money into a helmet. Make yourself safe. We just saw. I don't know if you guys saw the picture going around on Facebook where one of the drivers back east took a caliper bolt into the helmet and just missed his head.
Yep.
That's amazing. That shows you what kind of speeds we're dealing with on dirt tracks and kind of impacts that can happen inside a cockpit. I saw that picture and I thought that is one of the craziest things I think I've seen in a long time. It's a good thing he had a good quality helmet on. Otherwise,
that's the thing too. Is up in our area of Sunset Speedway, we have one of the best tech officials and stuff, Bob McCord, and Bob's been in racing for many, many years. He's our safety tech guy and stuff for chassis, everything, race wear, everything. A lot of these guys are going now to, because it's cool, and mind you, I have one too, is that 3-piece suit that NASCAR crew members and stuff wear. So they started coming to the track. A bunch of the drivers and stuff have these suits, and what it is, it's you have the pants, then you have the vest, and then you have the underlayer or whatever that has the arms and stuff. So Bob had saw this last year and said, you know what? Said, I wonder if this is actually really safe. So literally he called 6 manufacturers, Simpson, Impact, SFI personally themselves, to verify, saying, hey, look, if these come from, say NASCAR or whatever, and then come into our field, are they still SFI legal? Absolutely. As long as it has the SFI and there's no
tag on it.
Yeah, there's no tears, rips, burns, cracks, whatever. He says if there is burns or tears or whatever, got to go. If it has like a small little tear, you can patch it from the inside, sew it on the outside, and patch it on the outside. And then you can treat it. That then will give you that 30 seconds or 20 seconds of fire safety. But that's what he does. And he checks every single car. It doesn't matter if you're a 4B, doesn't matter if you're, a dwarf car or whatever.
Something that every racetrack should do. They should inspect every driver's helmets, fire suits.
And that's what he does.
At a minimum for safety inspection.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In a lot of, you get to a lot of these tracks, you go to an asphalt track, say South Speedway, for example. Butch and those guys up there, you go through tech. Your car is teched. It's minimum tech, whatever, but they check for, cotter pins, fire suppression, all that type of stuff. And that's another thing I want to get into.
Well, I was going to say, we were going to get into that here in a second, because that's something else we've kind of chit-chatted
about.
We wanted,
we, up there, at Sunset, Bob does, and people respect him, and he's going to sit there and he's going to tell you the truth. Hey, I recommend you do this. Can't force you to do it, like the glove situation, wearing the long sleeves. Because some of these guys in the 4B class, they'll wear long sleeves or a hoodie.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now,
these
guys,
will go
flannel,
up quick. Yeah,
flannel is
polycotton.
Oh yeah,
it's going to melt to you.
Fire's
You're done.
friend.
It'll melt to you.
But as a fire safety for Doug, that has to be a big concern for you.
I put a lot of money and a lot of time into my own crew safety, just because I know they're going to have to go in, and we're not even racing. Yeah. People think it's never going to happen to them. I've talked to I don't know how many late model drivers, guys that have $80,000 into their car, well, I don't like the feel of it. I don't like the feel of gloves, so I'm not going to wear them. I've talked to them blue in the face, and it doesn't seem to do any good.
Right, and
So I have to just do what I can. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be able to handle every single situation or protect everybody. I mean, we had a fatality at our track quite a few years ago, and he was convinced that we were going to save his life, and that day he died. So I can't save everybody, but I'm going to give him the best chance possible to be able to survive something like that.
Well, and see, that's the thing, too. You guys are there as a first responder. It also takes them to be a first responder to have the proper race attire for whatever you're racing. And again, I don't care if it's a 4B, dwarf car, whatever the case is, mini sprint, whatever. I believe those guys should have the same safety as, an open late model or a Budweiser IMCA modified or whatever the case is.
Well, and go ahead, Jeff.
You wear the most protection you can and the most layers you can.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can only buy a one-layer suit, buy a set of underwear as well.
Right.
And
one layer is better than a flannel shirt.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's what I was
at least it gives
and
you
you can
some
pick
time.
them up for what, $100?
Sitting in the tower at Willamette last week, getting ready to go race, and I'm looking down as guys are packing the track, and it goes back to the cars with no tops, and you can see down there. I'm still seeing guys that are wearing, like you said, flannels and T-shirts or jean jackets, and they're racing in this in a race car that. I mean, we know what can happen. It doesn't take a whole bunch to explode a fuel cell or get upside down and another car's there and catches on fire. I am amazed. I am still amazed at stuff that we're seeing in 2016. The guys not protecting themselves, but they'll put everything into their race car. Well, it just doesn't make sense to me.
A practice fire or a hot lap fire is still a fire.
Absolutely.
It's different than a race fire. And there was a guy years and years ago that had commented to somebody else at a practice night, "Why are you wearing your fire suit?" Practice fire is as hot as a real fire. It's a race fire.
Right?
And
fire's fire.
Yeah.
It doesn't determine if you're
and
practicing
as
or
I
not.
mentioned, that fatality that we had, it was time trials.
Yeah.
And he was out there
on the track
all
by
himself.
Right. He was.
And that's some of the worst wrecks I've seen is hot laps or time trials, or it doesn't have to be in a main.
Right.
And the thing is that you think about some of these, I want to say smaller divisions. Their cars aren't built as stout as like a fabricated modified or a fabricated late model. These guys literally either buy their cages or build their own cages, and they have a fuel cell that's exposed. It's you have a sheet metal.
And that's another thing. Fuel cells. If anything, get yourself a good fuel cell.
Absolutely.
Because the biggest,
ATL,
nastiest
Superior,
fires that we've had
start right there.
Is start because
safety cells
the
up in
fuel cell
Washington
breaks, or if they're upside down,
It's
fuel
leaking.
pours out.
check valves.
You need
all
a
that
check valve,
stuff.
Absolutely.
a positive seal, flap valve, something to keep that fuel inside that fuel cell.
That's right.
If you don't want a big fire, that's the first place to start.
Absolutely.
And
Is
the other
have
thing-
the best fuel cell that you can buy.
I remember years ago, you and Rafe coming by looking at cars and seeing the battery next to the fuel cell. It's like, why does the battery need to be here? And it's one of those things that, well, okay, the manufacturer put it there, but is that really the best place for it?
We just
they
got
start moving it.
we just got a great text message in from Mr. Kenny Miller saying, "You have a $10 head? Buy yourself a $10 helmet."
Exactly. I was thinking the same
That
thing.
is
about
the-
that helmets
that's
earlier.
true.
That is the biggest thing, and that's 100%. I mean, and he takes, mind you, his wife Franny takes, a lot of safety, make sure that he's okay and everything else. He just got a brand new suit and everything else. Here a few years ago, he drove a street stock for a friend, and just happened to be a person of circumstance, was coming on the high side out of turn 2. A guy was down at the bottom, decided, it's time for me to leave the track. Drove up into him, and Kenny had nowhere to go and literally hit one of those massive Uke tires on pit exit. It destroyed this car so bad. It pushed it back, shoved it all the way up. I mean, there's still pictures and stuff of it. But, I mean, it cracked his helmet. He hit the steering wheel. I mean, it was a massive impact. But because of his safety gear, it saved him. I believe it, I think he either broke his nose or hurt his nose or something like that. I know that some sort of, injury like that. But, I mean, if that's all that's going to happen after literally destroying this car, that takes in effect of your safety, gear. course, then he went out and bought a brand new helmet and everything else. A lot of these guys will get in these accidents, get in a rollover, and go, oh, well, there's just a scratch on my helmet.
And that's the
an
first
impact
thing
on
we
your
look
helmet,
for in any major impact is we always check helmets. If they got a crack in the helmet, that's the first thing we'll point out is, hey, this helmet's done.
Well, and a lot of manufacturers, I know Impact and Simpson and stuff like that. If you send it back to them, I'm not sure how much it costs and stuff now. I've never personally, but I've heard of people doing it. They will go back there and recertify that helmet and say, okay, yeah, it's good. It's just the clear coat or the paint that's chipped off of it. The impact, foam inside of it is still okay. Me personally, I would recommend
helmet's only
anybody.
designed for one impact.
One
That's
impact.
right.
And the other part
Well, and
is
seatbelts too.
Exactly.
Seatbelts are
Right.
only
Stretch and-
couple,
yeah.
couple
Stretches.
points there on seatbelts. Use your crotch strap.
You
Care
right?
what you're doing,
Yeah.
put that crotch strap in.
Absolutely.
right.
It's not a seatbelt system without a crotch strap
Yeah.
in it,
Right.
whether it's a 5-point or a 6-point.
Yep.
And then the other thing, going back to helmets, you really should be using an SA-rated helmet rather than an M-rated helmet.
Right.
M-rated helmets are designed to hit flat pavement.
Well, they're
and skid
a
on
motorcycle helmet, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Where an SA is an automotive helmet.
Yep.
Usually they're fire-resistant helmet as well on the interior liners. You do everything you can to help yourself.
I want to go back and touch on one subject before we get too far into the personal safety gear like we are, but we were talking about the fires and the fuel cells, and I think that was a good way to lead into something we all talked about before the show, fire suppression systems, the halon systems. I mean, we saw this a lot, Jeff, when we were younger growing up. How many cars did we see with halon systems, at Willamette, at Cottage Grove, at Coos Bay, at Roseburg,
Eugene, Portland.
all over back, when we were kids growing
Yeah.
up. Nobody has those now, and you got to ask yourself, in a wreck like Charlie Floyd's, does that make a big difference in saving a driver's life? I'm putting that thing out. They're not that expensive.
Well, first of all, halon can kill you, and so can dry chem. Everybody's
Start
been
breathing
around
that in.
someone shooting off dry chem. You can't breathe. Halon sucks all the oxygen out of your lungs. So I've been back and forth about this. People get freaked out, hit the button, without a real fire or a little header fire or something. They just freak out and hit the button. First of all, that costs you what? 60, 80, 100 bucks
Yeah, who
to
knows, depending on
refill.
what you've got,
To
yeah.
refill. And then you got the dry chem or halon or whatever, or the mostly dry chem because it's real corrosive, getting into your motor. You got
That's why a lot of drivers
I'm
with stuff.
not worried about that, though.
Well,
If it means
no,
saving my
but
life,
that's a lot of drivers have talked
I
about now.
understand.
Yeah.
Has talked about, and I believe there is a new. I can't remember. I'll have to do a little bit more research. I know there's a new product out, and it's for it's for racers. It's for racing.
It's a
what it is.
DuPont HE halon based system.
And
Exactly.
what it is
the fuel funny car guys are using.
yeah,
it.
you can breathe it.
Yep.
You can smell it. You can be on you. It's not corrosive to the motors. It's just, and it basically, like we were talking off air, it's a system that basically will take that fire and suppress it massively.
Well, and they also make foam systems for
Exactly.
Right.
for. I was just looking at one the other day and can't remember the name or anything like that, but it had a push button in the cab, and then you have a nozzle facing the motor, and you have a nozzle facing you, and basically it just shoots a whole bunch of foam all over everything. And it also has there's a cable that is wrapped around the cord. So if fire impinges on that and it breaks, it automatically sets off the system. So if you are upside down on fire and you're knocked
And it
out,
knocks, yeah.
it'll automatically go off.
So it's almost like remember back in the old days in school, you used to have the little fire pull systems, whatever. They used to have that
little glass.
glass chemical deal in there. As soon as it went off, that would
Like
that
a
would
sprinkler
do.
head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that kind of like the same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Some sort of a fusible link, like
It is,
solvent
yeah.
tank.
Fusible
Yeah,
link
at a
is
certain
more like
temperature.
it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
as soon
Like a
as
solder,
it
yeah.
as soon as it gets hot and melts, hot enough to melt the cable, then it automatically sets the system off.
Nice. Remember, race fans too. Our special guests and stuff. Of course, Doug from the
Extreme Fire and Rescue.
from Willamette Speedway.
Jeff Hansen.
Thanks, Corey. I'll point. You talk.
All right.
And here at 7 o'clock, here in about 15 minutes, we have a
Very special guest.
very
pulling in.
special
Yeah,
guest that
something you guys will want to listen to.
definitely has been through his ups and downs when it comes to rollovers or crashes, and will be a good insight for the show and for you, the race fans, just to kind of get a different perspective